this is Dandelion, and I'm going to take a look at this hurricane right here. We do know, most people do know, that they have technology to create these hurricanes. And it used to be that Dutch Synth used to report on this. And he would show you the, it was a radar map, and it would show you, and I don't know if there's anybody out here who still reports on these things. Maybe they're not on YouTube anymore. But he used to show you unusual radar activity in, unnatural geometries, and then what it was is they were heating up the ionosphere, and then it would cause weather to start right there, and it'd start a spiral. They know how to start this, and they were creating. He showed over and over again how probably HARP technology was creating hurricanes. So they could still be doing this, and if you wish to say to the mountain move about this, what you could do is just picture all technology that is manipulating weather for fear or danger to humans, that all that technology, all those circuits would just be rapidly eaten away by microbes in the air or some other method of nature that maybe we don't have to be familiar with to even ask for that. In some way, their circuitry fails, so they're not able to create this kind of havoc. So there's also, some people will say that maybe these aren't even happening. I can't speculate on that. The only way you can know is if you're there. Well, let's look at the word Hurricane Joaquin. And first of all, we'll look at it in the context. So Hurricane Joaquin prompts warnings. So there it's an active, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's an active noun. It's doing something. So then when you find out the code that's behind this word Hurricane Joaquin, you would put it back into this sentence, where you would see it as an agent of these things. So here it became the third hurricane Wednesday morning. I am going to just look at the cover numbers here too. All of these numbers, it'd be better if it was on a CNN or a Daily Mail site, because their numbers are really more out in the open. But you can see this 244 latitude. This is the 244, I don't know, this meridian. So right now it's right there, but there's a meridian of this is an assassination meridian. I think it's it goes across the lower United States, and it covers most of our most famous assassinations. So here we have what could be, we have a 9-6. This is the number that I keep talking about, having to do with July 15th, which was the beginning of Jade Helm. And it is also the GO association with that letter. If you've seen me do that algorithm, that will make sense to you. And if you're new here, I'll probably do it again. But there's an algorithm that ties, having to do with dates and letters, that ties this 96 to the opposite of the 69 keystone arch of the Freemason arch. And so they do keep talking about this, and one of the deeper codes here is phi, and then back and then if you took this 9 in the other direction and moved it back to the 1 and the 8, first of all, you have the opposite of free. You would have the R and the F. So it would be simultaneously the backwards of the R and the F with the O and the G. This is why we have frogs so heavily in our symbolism. But also it's the Bride of Christ number, which is the 816 number. So here you have a stock, this is a stock and a market number. So I've repeated this a lot, and I don't want to, I mean, I guess I have to just keep repeating it, because they're still putting these numbers up here. So we can't stop saying that. But we just want to show wherever these come up. If you have the time, I won't be able to do all the gematria here, just because it would be an hour-long video. But every single one of these things, including this little statement right here, could be put into a gematria counter. This one, this one, this one, and this one, and especially anything in quotation marks. So we're going to just take the most heavy codes first and take a look at it. So let's look at Hurricane Joaquin. So when we scroll down, you will probably say, if you've been watching my videos, you'll probably say, wow, those numbers look familiar. This is the day after the I think Casey at Enter the Stars calls this Egyptian Valentine's Day, and I haven't studied all of that to know what that all entails, but I know Valentine's Day has a lot more to do with it than you think it does. So these numbers are familiar. We've seen these before. So let's see what they are. So in the Jewish Gematria, it equals Judgment Day. So they're still talking about this, these revelations, ideas. True bride of the resurrection. The day of the Lord's holy bride. So let's go down to this simple and the English, and then you're going to say, oh yeah, okay, we've seen this. This is the Holy Spirit, the Lord of hosts. Napoleon must have figured out how to put his name in there. Even back then, he figured that out. Tetragrammaton. I've talked to you about my theory about what the Tetragrammaton means, that it is, after studying Marty Leeds' book and studying how often they encode pi in, that Tetragrammaton is a play on pi, that it's pi derived by 22 divided by 7, pi divided by 7 twice. That's still a, I'm not attached to that theory. That's just my prevailing theory on what this means and where it comes from. Lord's Prayer. The Pope was unable to say the Lord's Prayer. I don't know if you've seen the videos on that. He stumbled right in the beginning, and he might have said the word hell a few times in there. kind of weird, that because the thing is, like, they act like, okay, well, he doesn't speak English, so that's why. Well, if you're gonna stumble on the Lord's Prayer and accidentally say the word hell, maybe it would just be okay for him to say it in Latin. Maybe everyone would understand. He doesn't have to stumble in English and say things he doesn't mean to say, unless they wish it to be looked that way. So, something to consider. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so we do need to bring up the obvious, the spelling of this name, how close it is to the Solomon's Temple reference. It's just a little bit different. And I did a video recently having to do with these pillars and the Gematria, some Gematria codes that should show some deeper insight. I saw this graphic on someone's video who I unfortunately can't remember the name anymore, otherwise I would reference them, but it needs to be shown that this is a 23, this ratio, the ratio of the heights of the cubits. And these other measurements are, of course, important too. Okay, so the name of this pyramid, oh no, did I say pyramid? Hurricane. We do have a 25. We do have a 25 in here, and then a 22, and then this would be a 27 if you added it, which could also be a 9, so you have a 922 and those kind of things. So it could be some kind of an atonement sort of an idea. You could see that there are two 25s in here, which would, according to the way the Freemasons think, that would make it holy. The Jewish Gematria equals owl. I've decoded this word with raw Gematria, where you take I don't know how to do Jewish Gematria. It's not too hard to do. It's just, I'm working on some other stuff, so I don't ever do it. I only use the calculator for this. So, but if raw Gematria is based on simple Gematria, so if you take the 0 and the O, which is 15, and the L, that's 27, that would go first in your adding, and then you would take the center. So that would be 23. So 27 reduces to a 9, and then you would have a 23, which could reduce to a 5. Then you would have a 9 to 5. That is a slave reference, but if you keep one or both of them unreduced, you have a 923. And I think we're going to keep seeing 923s, because I think they do care about the dates, and they did schedule sacrifices, and I do feel that they had some other things planned and they were thwarted. And I think that a lot of truth channels are feeling like, uh-oh, it didn't happen. What I said, was going to happen didn't happen. Well, I kind of feel like truth channels should take a little victory lap, because I think we embarrassed the crap out of them, and then they pulled back on either they pulled back on their plans, or they were shut down by local positive forces, positive military, possibly positive policemen. People can't believe that positive policemen might exist, but I think for sure they do exist. We have beautiful, decent humans all over this world. For some reason, Queen Elizabeth is right in there. We know they wouldn't name this guy something that has nothing to do with anything. He was a main player, and so's the queen. In the simple gematria, this equals this would add up. You would say you could add it up a couple of ways. It could be a 54, which adds to a 9, or a 27, which adds to a 9. Basically, there really aren't any limits on this, because any of these kind of code algorithms that you follow out, they either tie back into a larger circle or they make sense in some way, and that's why I say there's really no slop in here. So it equals truth, and this shows you that there's positive and negative in all the vibrations. It equals Russia. We've seen Russia again in the news. Muslim, that's been in the news. Justice, Lotus, the sun, Noah's Ark. So interesting inside job. This hurricane could be an inside job. That could be the code. They feel like it's a blessing because they're the ones pulling the strings. Yeah, the word blessing came up. I was just watching a Zachary K. Hubbard video about the chemtrail, rainbow that was over the Pope, and all of the sheeple are like, praise God, the Pope is for real, even though we see those all the time. Those are chemtrail sundogs. And there was no rain that day, so there should not have been a rainbow, but people don't think that through. Anyway, that was called a blessing. That word was used a lot, so that means this very same Gematria code that we're seeing with the hurricane was just used just a few days ago. It equals democracy, tornado. I don't know if that's the right spelling of this, but it could be. My idea of this word is this means multiple Pleiadians. It could either be multiple good Pleiadians or multiple difficult Pleiadians, depending on who's using the word. So if somebody comes to you and says that they're Elohim, you need to ask more questions. Gnostic. Oh, before we go on, oh my God is such a heavily used phrase, and then OMG has been a heavily used phrase. When people say this, they are helping to beating the drum of this code. So we don't know exactly what we're agreeing to when we use these cliches. Let's look up hurricane. So in the Jewish gematria, it's right here next to mind control and nature and fly. In the simple gematria and the English gematria, it matches Anthony and serpent. It is spiral usually, so that you can see there's a serpent. It's there's a serpent kind of tie-in. Egyptian, son of man, Poseidon. Okay, well this is the what's it called when you just take the headline? Let me show you right here. I know this word, I know it, I just can't say it right now for what this is. I can almost hear somebody say this. Well, when they do these things, for this word that I can't think of saying right now, it gives them permission to put different letter combinations together that normally wouldn't happen, and so usually they have a reason for doing this. So here we do see the upside down of the 106 number that we often see, plus it's like a raw gateway, and we have a counting up number, and we do want to pay attention to the counting up numbers. And let me show you what this matches in the Jewish gematria over here in the left column, and then we'll scroll down here to the English gematria, where I think these ones make more sense to me. So they're maybe identifying themselves with an angel type of network. They would do that so that you would trust them, because they would take the same vibration of a word that you've come to trust that vibration. And that would make it easier for you to believe what they say. Okay, so in the title, I could take this whole thing too, right before the semicolon, but in the title, it shows you from the punctuation how to break it down for the gematria. So I take this end part, and you're going to see that they did this on purpose. We see our 168 again, and we see the 11 and the 14. Now, whenever I see the 14, besides that this is a 68, which is stock and market, besides that, all 14s now, I'm going to start to try to remember, because I believe that as above, so below, and I've been taking this in a digital root direction, going to the digital root, we need to gain some flexibility in going backwards from the root to the origin numbers. And there's, of course, many origin numbers, so it's more difficult to go that way. Well, all 14s are 59s and 95s, and those are slave numbers. And of all of the 14 combinations that I have found, and I'll nail them all down eventually, but that one is the most often used in the media, so that's the one I'm going to call that a backward digital root. I'm going to backwardly digital root that more often than the other ones, especially if we're working with mass media. But this is the 618 and the 816 number. We've seen the 816 number, Dylan Storm Roof, Georgia Guidestones, and I've said this a lot, mentioned it a lot, and it's the Bride of Christ number. It's also phi backwards, and phi matters. If this is your first video with me, you might think, what does phi have to do with it? Well, Philadelphia has phi in it twice. And Philadelphia has been in the news a lot with the train wreck and the whole Pope thing. If you square phi, a curious thing happens. The front number turns to a 2 because that was a 1.618, and it goes on. It goes 1.6180339, and then an 8, I believe. Well, when you square it, it goes to a 2.6180339. So I don't know. I would like to see a page, if anybody knows of a page of other squares that do this, where they keep so many digits the same through the square. I don't know how many of these exist, and so I would imagine that these guys who worship numbers would have noticed this. And they, from looking at the word phi and the word, in all of the gematria, simple, well, okay, all the ones I've studied, phi and pi are carefully coded, and they use these to build from. They decide the names of things with this. So my theory is they're worshiping this, and in a nutshell, my theory is that they see phi as the divine creation or the destiny, and they see pi, especially in the 17/HI/Q form, because Q is the 17th letter, as the interrupter of phi, and that gives them the right to interrupt destiny or to interrupt the divine creation. So this might just be, a nugget of how their religion works. And so if you're new to this channel and you're thinking, what does this matter about these numbers? It's just numbers. You have to realize you were programmed in school. They taught you math, but they taught it to you in a way that made it seem futile. They taught math futility to you on purpose so that you would give up on math and you would think it doesn't have anything to do with anything. Meanwhile, they are engineering everything, including names and hurricanes and buildings and dates, using this. So, little speech there about phi. Here we have a 30, if you added this together, and that's one of, that's a number that I keep an eye out for, because it's the only number that equals Hail, Bible, Eagle, and Alice in the Jewish simple and English gematria that I've come across. There's very rare words, or very rare numbers that are shared by so many different words. And it's because the Jewish gematria is created very differently, as you can see. A U is a 200. It's pretty different from this. This one is just simple, or English is just simple times 6. So that has a pretty easy connection. It's just one easy step in math. So to have all those words be the same and have them all be high profile words, so I'm paying attention to that. 30. Plus I think it's a trinity of upward and downward pentacles. So it would be, a 10 would be an upward and a downward pentacle of 5 stars each, which would be a 10-pointed star, and this would be a trinity of those. And I think that's the other meaning of 30. Here we have a 32, a 32 gateway. So that's interesting. This is a backward 23. Now, the way I have been decoding the 32 and the 23 is an upright or a downward pentacle, and this would be an upright pentacle. So I do see this would be an exception to my rule, you know, but maybe I don't understand the premise here. So I always have to, you know, be humble while I'm trying to build my theories about how they use these numbers. Well, in the Jewish Gematria, so this hurricane is going towards the East Coast, right? And so we do have the Statue of Liberty here, and that might be one of the main tie-ins here. That might be one of the codes. Let's look at the English. Oh, the word's too big. What I mean is the numbers are too big to make sense. It gets really crazy over here unless the numbers are smaller. That's why when you put in a phrase, you mostly have to just look at the numbers and try to understand them on their own. This is a gateway, though. So it's kind of interesting. So I put in the first part of the sentence here. I'll show you exactly what I mean in a minute. But it's kind of interesting that in the last thing I just brought you, there was a 302 gateway. And then here in the first part of the same headline, there's a 32 and then the year. And they do like to put dates in here. And I do want to pay attention. Today's 9:30, and I think this is a Hoover Dam date, and I think I should be paying attention, and or at least study some more about the Hoover Dam so I can quickly explain what's going on if something comes up over there. Oh, the thing that I noticed here in these numbers, besides this kill number right here, and this rotation of the sun number, because this is double 14, and it's the rotation of the outer core, outer part of the sun as visible from the earth. This is, I bring this symbolism back to the oldest, which is the Mayan, because I feel like if you bring it back to the oldest symbolism, you understand what the Freemasons built from. And I feel like they built from solar numbers. And then this is a kill number. This is also a clock number. But here we have agent and 74. And 74 is their God number. And I just did a decode written in the side of one of my books that gave me new information into 74. So I have to go back and refresh my memory on that. So I just want to show you the 72 number. This is the number of years that it takes the zodiac, the sun, to move 1 degree through the zodiac. It's one of the very, very sacred numbers. You could write a chapter on this, and some of the books that I have a whole chapter on this number by itself. Over here, the W is a 23, so again, you have the 923, which we can, if you want, you can talk about dates, but you can also talk about that this is symbolic for the movement of the ego, possibly to enlightenment. 9 would be the ego, and the 2 would be the movement, and the 3 would be the trinity, mostly of ones, and then also of sevens. So that's another thing that we need to think of when we see 923s just thrown around. It could be code for what's going on behind the scenes, which is evolution, spiritual evolution. I just want to look down here. All right, well, here's their projected path, although they say that they don't know. And when they say they don't know, they're just telling you that they just don't want you to think that they do know, because it's just kind of another way of programming you of like, oh, we're just doing the best we can, and you know, we probably didn't create this using HARP, and so we don't know where it's going to go. We saw with Hurricane Sandy that there was a drill several years earlier that had its precise path and its dates worked out, and even the name was the same, and so they do know. You could take any of these and put these in to the Gematria counter to find out more about this. Okay, so this is the map of the people. I was just pressing the video here. I'm on weather.com, www.weather.com/storms/hurricane/news/tropical-storm-hurricane-Joaquin-Atlantic. Probably it'll come right up there. So this is their aware, and it's orange. And so we've seen the word aware a lot lately, having to do with various stories, including the Delaware in Philadelphia, which also makes the upward strike of the phi sign on that map. But let's look at, so I already popped down here to the simple and the English Gematria, just to show that these are aware matches some of these words that are constantly hit This is a Revelations word. Then we have wall and live, blood, and then in the Jewish gematria, it's very interesting. The main, I think, connection would be the Bohemian Grove. And so this is just the magic of Jewish gematria, that such a big collection of words can equal such a small collection of words. Now, I think when they put awareness, let me show you, with the orange behind it, I think what they're just trying to do is hit some pop-up type of ideas in your mind, because you are aware of these frequencies even if you do not know that you're aware of them. And so you will feel the spiritual, this is a spiritual number right here, you will feel the spirituality of this warning just because you can feel the 108 number in there, and you know that the number 108 has so many ties spiritually. Also, in the Jewish gematria, we have a 711, and this is one of their most important ratios, having to do with human consciousness mostly, and I guess it's one of the ratios of the pyramids, having to do with other civilizations and messages that came through from other civilizations. And so the Freemasons do pay attention to this. All right, well, I feel like what we need to do is more study on the pillar, the Solomon Temple pillar. And that's what I'll be paying attention to. I am going to be working on a few other topics, though. So, all right, I hope you guys are having a good day. Stay safe. Love you. Bye-bye.